So Dee Bowden, author of Collect the Cash, loved Dee's attitude, loved how Dee was approaching, not just the mindset, but I'm going to write this book. And at first I wasn't sure. It was awesome. And collecting cash, as a business owner, had never thought about that. So I'm excited for you to dive into this episode. It's going to be really awesome and also really inspiring.
Welcome to the How to Write a Book podcast, the show that helps you plan, write, and publish your book, even if you're a beginner or just feel like one. Now, for your host, she's written over a dozen books and helps others bring their books to life. Here she is, Maciel.
Hey there, writers. Let's take a beat to talk about a special announcement. So November is your month of transformation. Get a 1-hour coaching session with me by choosing one of these 3 options, or all 3. Option 1, join our Patreon for $1, which will support the show. Option 2, book a $1 coaching session on coach.me. Option 3, leave an Apple Podcasts review. Send a screenshot to my email and get a coaching spot. You can do all 3 and get 3 hours of coaching with me. Find all the links in the show notes. Act fast. This offer is only valid for November to celebrate National Novel Writing Month. Thanks.
All right. And welcome back to the How to Write a Book podcast. Thank you so much, Dee Bowden, for joining us today. How are you doing?
Maciel, I am fantastic. It is an honor to be here. We have been chatting before we went live, and it's been this instant connection, just great energy, and excited to talk about, writing a book, the journey, and also, sharing, hopefully sharing some great motivation and inspiration to your audience who's going to listen to this and go, oh, I never thought about that, or, oh my gosh, I learned something cool, or all of the above. So we're about to have a great conversation. So let's go.
I know. I'm excited too. I'm super excited. Actually, I believe you are the first business book person on the show, actually.
Nice.
Yes. So I'm excited. That's going to be awesome. So also a little bit about you. Dee Bowden, you are an author and revenue recovery consultant, and you are the author of Collect the Cash. The sale is not complete until the money is in the bank, which is... Yes. Tell us about yourself, Dee. Tell us about your book.
Sure thing. So the story goes like this. So let me do the fun facts. So I'm Dee Bowden. I'm originally from Boston. I live in the great state of Maryland. My fun facts are that I love smooth jazz, great wines, both red and white, and I love Ferris wheels. That's one of my favorite things. So the story is like this. Most people ask me why? First of all, how did you get into revenue recovery, and then why did you write a book? So. Yeah. I like to say it this way. So what had happened was about 18 years ago, I used to work for a small IT company outside of Boston, where I'm from. If you've ever worked in corporate or had a corporate job or a professional job, you know how it is. Welcome aboard. Here's your cubicle or your office. Here's your box, and here's your plant. Well, in my case, it was welcome aboard. You're going to be part of a collections team, and we've got $8 million in outstanding invoices that need to be collected. I'm like, y'all have how much? They're like, yeah, we got $8 million in outstanding invoices that need to be collected. And we have a team, and this team has not been able to figure this out. It says here by your resume, you're an expert in this, so we need you to come help us. So basically, I come on board, and I look at the systems and the issues, and I'm like, okay, let me get to work. So I got quiet, and I figured out that collecting unpaid invoices in the business to business or business to government space is 4 things. It's problem solving. It's answering the question of what had happened was. Because basically, whenever people don't pay you, you got to find out why. So my funny part is so what had happened was, because there's always a story. There's always something that didn't go right. So what had happened was, then there's customer service. All of us live in this world today where customer service matters, even when you're doing product-based business or service-based business. Customer service is everything. We all know if you get a bad review or a good review, it can make or break your business. And then I have this thing called gratitude. It's kind of one of those softer skills, but I believe in expressing gratitude. Gratitude is basically thank you for the person who takes your phone call, who helps you figure out the issue with why you haven't gotten paid, and then makes sure your check gets cut. That part. And then the last thing is what you and I are doing today is building relationships. I think you have to build relationships with the people that you do business with. Because here's the thing, as you read at the beginning of the conversation, we said collect the cash. The sale is not complete until the money's in the bank, but you must collect it first. But here's the other thing, you got to build a relationship to get the sale, deliver the service, invoice them, and get paid. And if you don't do those 4 things, you might not be making any money. So back to the story. I collect $6 million in 60 days, and then the unthinkable happens. The CEO of the company says, listen, let's have a chat. We're coming downstairs. If you've ever worked in corporate sales, if you know sales usually gets commissions. You know how like when when they sell you a car, they get a commission for selling the car. Well, in our case, I'm thinking, okay, the salespeople are going to get commissions. My team, we're going to get a bonus. Nope. Come downstairs and they said, listen, thank you so very much for everything you've done across all the departments. We've made an executive decision and we're closing the company today and we're laying off 100 people 2 months before the holiday season.
Oh.
So after I recovered from that, I thought about what happens to small business owners who have sales on the books, who sell products, who sell services, who unfortunately may struggle with getting paid. And so Collect the Cash was born out of what happened to me because this was a small company with less than 100 people and our whole lives got turned upside down. And so the thought to write the book didn't come immediately because this has been some years between when that happened to me and then writing the book. But what really kind of kicked it off was 2 things. I had a book coach and she was doing a webinar and she kept saying, you can write a book in 90 days or less. And I was like, yeah, right. She was like, no, I'm serious. You can write a book in 90 days or less. And I thought she was kidding. But what she really was trying to say was that basically you can have the beginning framework for a book in 90 days or less. And so she kept saying this and I went to her webinar and I was like, so I could really do this. And she was like, yeah. And so what happened was the story I just shared with the audience is what I told her. And she goes, Dee, you have a system. You can teach small business owners how to win. And so if you ever played double dutch, jumping rope, we played double dutch. I was like, I don't want to do this. She was like, no, you need to do this. She's like, come on. I'm like, no. So she won, which is why Collect the Cash exists today. Because I promise you, I had no desire to write a book because here's the thing. I'm a practitioner. I collect money. I do all the things, but I never would have thought that my story of resilience and bounce back and perseverance and taking a horrible situation and turning it into a business and lessons and teaching and podcast interviews and all the things is what I've done since I wrote the book. But it would have never started if I had never told my story. And the thing was, she happened to be the blessing or the vehicle to help me take the story from something that really happened that was bad. And she was like, Dee, you have great lessons. You've got resilience. You've got perseverance. You've got, how do you get on the other side of something that bad when bad things happen to us, because bad things happen to all of us, but it's what happens after you get on the other side of the bad thing. Do you stay stuck? Are you depressed? Or do you take that and use it as fuel or as energy to go, okay, I'm going to create something different and better out of my life? And so that's how Collect the Cash came to be.
Oh, that's amazing. And, we chatted about this before. You said that it wasn't on your vision board. That you had
absolutely not.
So
it was not. I promise you, it was not on my vision board at all.
At what point were you like, I'm going to say yes. I'm saying yes all the way. It's on the vision board, but let's do this. Was it like a specific moment, or was it your book coach?
My book coach is the reason. Like I said, literally, because I went to her webinar, and when she heard me tell the story about how much money I collected, she was able to connect the dots, and she goes, Dee, there are small business owners that don't have a system to how to collect the cash. And she goes, you've collected millions of dollars. You can teach us how to win. You can teach us what to say when we have a client who doesn't pay us our invoice. What do we do? You can teach us how to collect the cash. You can teach us how to have a tracking system on how to track our customers and what to do with that. And she's like, you have the story of resilience. She's like, this was a horrible thing that happened not just to you, but to 100 people 2 months before Christmas. And she's like, you've bounced back. You've got now you've got a career, you've got a business, you've got all these things, and you've got lessons that you can teach us. And she was like, I really want you to do this. And so, like I said, we played double dutch and she won because I promise you I was not going to do this. But because she could see something in me that I didn't see, I had to submit to the process of trusting her and trusting the process and believing that if I did the work, I could be blessed and I could have more things like being on your podcast and doing all the other things I've done. But it would have never happened, number one, if I had never told my story, because all the things that we've been celebrating and seeing is because I've only told one story. This is the only story I talk about. It's what happened to me, the lessons I learned. And then my goal is that when I tell the story, hopefully what you get from me is that you'll get the energy, of course, that I'm on the other side of it for sure. But secondly, that you'll understand that it took, resilience. Yes. Did I break down and cry? Absolutely. Was I upset? Heck yeah. I had collected $6 million. And I was like, I thought we was getting a bonus. I'm like, it's 2 months before Christmas. Listen, I had already planned on a bonus. I had my Christmas list. I was about to go shopping. And I'm like, I got to go find a job. What? So I had to get through all the emotions. But then I realized, as the kids would say, life be life. And so life was definitely lifing during that moment. But what life taught me was that, when you get knocked down, you got to get back up again, and you've got to be able to find your bounce back in whatever happens to you. You've got to be able to find it. Yes, you have your emotions, you cry, you get all the things out, but then you have to take whatever happened to you. I think it's called when life gives you lemons, you make lemonade. Well, in my case, I made a book.
Yeah, I love that. Instead of lemonade, you made the book. So, you touched on this just a little bit ago, and you said now you get to be on a podcast, you get to talk about your story, you get to help other people. What else has come up from just saying yes to this process and saying I'm going to publish this book? What other things have come your way that you didn't anticipate?
Oh, well, number one, I never anticipated that my book would be launched in Times Square on a billboard. Let's start there.
Yes, I saw that.
Yeah, that was like a huge thing. It was a wonderful blessing, and I was like, wow. So that's one. What else has come up? Being on podcasts, being featured in Forbes magazine, Yahoo Finance, Black Enterprise, teaching the Professional Photographers of America, doing a live with them and teaching over 120,000 of them my system because of Collect the Cash, being featured in their magazine, working with the Small Business Development Centers and teaching three of their cohorts, how to collect the cash. I never thought that I would be considered like this expert for a practical thing that I've done in my career that has now, catapulted me in places and spaces I never thought I'd be in. I think what's also the most important part is that it's being able to tell the story, but it's also being able to inspire others. And I think, I'll speak to your audience for a minute. Here's the thing. If you are thinking about writing a book, I think, number one, it's a great experience. And I'll tell you why. One, you get to learn more about yourself. You'll discover things about you that you didn't know. Like I didn't know that I could speak. Because I never didn't see myself as a speaker. But writing a book allows you to learn things about yourself. So you learn resilience. 2, you learn how to tell your story. 3, you learn that your book is not just for you, it's for the people that you choose to serve. I chose to write my book so I can leave a legacy for small business owners. So in the future, when I'm no longer here, they can look up my name and say, oh yeah, she was that lady that talked about collecting payment. Oh yeah, collect the cash. So my prayer and my hope is that from writing this book that, I leave legacy. I give you tips, tools, and strategies on how to collect your cash. When you write your book, what you do is you tell your story and you leave something that's always going to be here. If you think about it, books are the one thing people don't throw away.
Mm-hmm. Right.
People don't throw away books. We got books. People got books for hundreds of years, thousands of years. Why? Because there are jewels, there are gems, there's information, there's teachings, there's all kinds of things. And the thing is, if you write a good book, you can make a difference. And yes, and make some money along the way too. But the focus needs to be not so much about making the money first. It's more about making the difference. And who can you write the book for that can learn from your experience? Because all of us have experiences, good and bad, that you can teach others. It's all in how you reframe it and then share it so that you're like, okay, oh, I can teach this? Oh, okay, go. I'm gonna go do that. Yeah,
and that's such a good point that we don't throw away books. I mean, I'll keep books even though it's way past children's books from when I was a little kid. I'll still keep them. I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna put them on my shelf. They're gonna look good. I'm gonna pass them on to my kids, things like that. The only time I throw away a book is this one time when the rain. The storm drain burst and it went into the room and it ruined all these books and I almost cried. I was like, oh, books.
Yeah, because I'm so glad you said that, because that's the emotional connection you have with the book. Like even seeing because you think about it, when you saw the book that got ruined by the flood, I think the thought would have been, man, you know, the person who wrote that book, like the energy it took to write that. And you're like, man, now this is, you know, it's unfortunately, you know, it gets ruined. But here's the thing. But most of us have our favorite, you know, books, and we have this emotional connection either to the author or to the character. So, for example, like one of my absolute favorite authors, his name was E. Lynn Harris. He's no longer here, but he wrote this beautiful body of work that I actually have on my bookshelf. I actually have a whole shelf dedicated to him because he was just that kind of author. Like, I loved his one. He was a phenomenal human being, but he was also a great storyteller. So when I used to get his books, I had to remember, like, not to read the whole book in one day because he would not have another book for another year.
We gotta slow down
for sure, because I would go home, get my snacks, and I'd be like locked in, let's go. But then I was like, oh man, you read this whole book in a night, you're not gonna get another one for a year. So, but the point is that he, unbeknownst to me, it's so funny, I didn't even realize that he had inspired me because I read all his books, but then I learned like his art, the art of storytelling. And so for your authors or potential authors, here's the thing. You need to be, you have to be willing to share your story. And your story could be fiction. You know, you could write about, you know, something that happened to you that you've learned some lessons you want to share, or nonfiction. Let's say, you know, like in my case, I wrote a business book because I want to serve business owners. But whatever your story is, you want to be able to make a difference, you know, share your lessons. And then you gotta, we talked earlier about vision boards. You gotta visualize your book. You gotta see your book like in Barnes and Nobles. You gotta see it on Amazon as a bestseller. You gotta create the vision, and then you're working toward that. Now, as I was telling in the beginning, I didn't have a vision board for the book. I mean, I have a vision board for other stuff, but books weren't a part of it. But it was being open to something new that stretched me. Mm-hmm. It stretched me to tell my story. It stretched me to submit to a 90-day program and write out my chapter every Saturday, submit it in for feedback, get the corrections, go back and, you know, do the rewrites and keep going. And then to believe that this body of work could become something, you know, and getting an editor and then finding a publisher and then, you know, all the things, and then, you know, going through rewrites and going through corrections and you know, and then, you know, feeling like, is this story going to be enough? Because I think sometimes when you tell your story, you don't know if it's enough. Like, for example, like I said, I'm a practitioner. I collect money for a living. So I'm thinking, who's going to want to learn this story? But it was because of my book coach who said, Dee, it's not that you just collect money. You have a system that you can teach business owners. She pulled out something for me that I would have never seen because I would have never thought that I could teach this or do this. But she was like, nah, you've got something, and I want you to work with me, and we're gonna create this product. And so, yeah, so that's what happened.
That's awesome. I love everything that you know, not just like accomplished, but the message that you achieved. And so going back to like your book coach, it sounds like you hit like, you know, a couple of moments of self-doubt. So your book coach is a support system. Was there anything else that kind of popped up that supported you or that inspired you, you know, that you're like, oh yes, God is telling me I'm going to write this book, you know, more of like of those kinds of mountains that you're climbing?
Well, here's the thing. I've gone to graduate school, so I have a master's degree. And so, when you're in graduate school or any kind of school, I'll say it this way. If you've gone to school, you've got a bachelor's degree or a master's degree. Most of us who have degrees, we know that there's always been a class or more that's been like extremely challenging. And you had to decide to still get up and go to class because your goal was to be able to put your cap and gown on, walk across the stage, get your name called, receive your degree. And I love that part, move your tassel from the left to the right. So I had to pull on my past experiences. Like I had to pull on, being in graduate school and writing my thesis and writing out my independent learning project, but writing out that and then going through the writing of putting that project together and being told, no, this is not acceptable. And then I had to dig deep and figure out, okay, how am I going to, what he said, my professor was like, I get the idea, but man, this ain't quite it. Like what? And then, take that rejection of my idea, go get the help and then, get it reframed and then, go back in and, submit it again and again until he finally says, okay, now this is something we can accept and we can, you can continue on in your program. But yeah, here's the thing. You have to be able to get on the other side of whatever it is. So that's why I say if you've gone to school, this is perfect, because most of us have either gone to school, or better yet, if you play sports, if you've been on a team, whatever position you've played on your sports team, you've had to learn the position, you had to learn the drills, whatever it was. Music, if you play an instrument, I promise you, the first time you learn how to play the clarinet or the flute or the piano, however you sound today, that's not how you sounded in the beginning. You had to learn the notes, you had to learn the scales, you had to practice, you had to take your lessons, you had to get correction from the teacher. No, you're not quite getting the rhythm. You have to learn how to read the sheet music, on and on and on. The point is that none of us gets to be great, overnight. It's a long process. You have to get up, get knocked down, get correction, get rejected, figure out how to learn the lesson, go back in, and you have to be determined that you're not going to let this one setback or setbacks stop you from accomplishing your goal. So whether you have a degree, whether you played sports, whether you played an instrument, whatever, if you've accomplished anything in life, you already have it within you. You just got to believe that you can take that same skill and transfer it to writing your book, and believe that your book will be good.
Yeah, no, and that's exactly what I think can make the process so much easier, for people. Because then exactly like you said, like they start to kind of pick it apart, overwhelmed, I have to do this, I have to do that, I have to do that, and then it becomes this huge, huge mountain. And you're right, it's like if you've handled a complex project, been on a team, had to do like your graduate work, then you can handle writing a book, because it's just managing smaller projects until you can get it all together, all cohesive.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that's something that's not talked about, because as we jokingly say on these social media streets, everybody's talking about, become an Amazon, bestseller. There's nothing wrong with that. Just for the record, there's nothing wrong with that. Or if you want to do traditional publishing, all the things. The point is that if you just look at the social media, landscape, it looks like becoming an author is almost like this I Dream of Genie thing. You just snap your fingers and it's done. But a really good book means that you have to go through the process of, writing and editing and then rewriting. And then, if you're doing fiction, you have to develop your story and the characters and what's the point of this? You're doing nonfiction. Okay, you still have to develop your story and your characters and what's the information you're trying to convey. And then you have to be willing to go through the process of course correcting if the first draft isn't hitting, and if you have a good book coach, he or she will tell you, okay, I see what you're trying to do, but I think if we change it and go in this direction, this will flow better. And then if you're open to being corrected, then you have to trust that because if they're an established author, they're going to be able to tell you things that you don't know. Because here's the thing, I was green when I did this part. I mean, I've done a lot of things, but my book coach is a Simon & Schuster published author. One of the top 5 publishing, houses. Like, her books have been published by them. So it would not have been smart for me not to listen to her, considering that she has that level of credentials. Right. Exactly.
Yeah, exactly. And so speaking of, publishers and the top 5, that's awesome. What was your publishing process like?
Well, this entire book process, I took classes. So I took a class to learn how to craft the book. I took a class to work to learn editing. And then I happened to have worked with my publisher, and I took one of her classes. And so we talked about, how you have to, see the book as a business. So she taught us how to work with Ingram Sparks and how to, establish that, and how to, create, see your book as a business, like see yourself, as a speaker, as an author, as a teacher, as a trainer. I had to work with her editors and submit the book, and at least 3, I probably had 3 to 5 revisions because I thought I had it right. And then the editor came back and she was like, I don't understand what you're trying to say here, or you're talking in too much corporate speak. I need you to break it down to the small business owner. So I had to, take the correction and go back and do it. And then finally, she said, okay, after the editor said for the last time, yes, we can publish this, because from the table of contents to the last chapter or last page, this is a cohesive body of work that we can publish. And so when she said yes, it was a relief for me, but it was hard. I mean, we had some hard conversations because of course, I'm thinking I know what I'm doing. But again, to be a really good author, you have to be willing to be teachable and be coachable. And I think that's a nugget for your audience, is that you have to be willing to be teachable and to be coachable, because even though you're an expert in what you're writing about or what you're doing, I wasn't an expert in being an author. I wasn't an expert in being an editor. I definitely wasn't an expert in being a publisher. I had to learn to submit to the people who were experts in their realm of genius, and decide that I want to work with them because I want them to endorse my books, endorse the book, publish the book, and all that. And I had to, was it easy? No. In the beginning, it was definitely challenging, but I made a decision that I wanted to be able to see this book all the way through, and that meant that I had to be open to be teachable, open to be coached, open to the suggestions that they said, and then make the corrections and then send it back. And when they finally said yes, that's when it finally got published.
Awesome. That's amazing.
Thank you.
Definitely. I mean, that sounds like a lot of amazingly hard work. You know what I mean? Like the kind of work that you pour into, when you come out, you feel like you've exercised. You know what I mean?
For sure. For sure. Yeah, and it is a lot of hard work, and I'd be remiss if I sat here and said, there are days that I struggled. I absolutely struggled. I mean, because of course, that's why I talked about school, because yes, I have a graduate degree and all the things, but that graduate degree didn't come on day one. It took me 2 years to get that degree. I had to take all my classes and all the things, and your authors need to understand that. This journey is twofold. Yes, there's nothing like, finally writing your book and finally seeing it published, and you get to hold it and smell it. And oh my gosh, it's almost like your baby. You're like, yes, this is mine. I did that. But there's also like the personal development that comes along if you are open to it. Because here's the thing. A lot of people are not open to it because they're like, well, I just thought I could just write this book. I could just go, jot this down and we're done. Like, no, because the thing is, if you see the book as a journey, you will develop as a person, and then you'll find out things about yourself you didn't know. And then if you're open to it, you will be able to eventually be on podcasts like this and share your story and make a difference. And then, you have to the biggest lesson I would tell you: trust the process. Please get a book coach. Please get an editor. Please get a book coach. Please get an editor. Please be open to the feedback that they give you. Make the course corrections as you need to, and then trust the process. Is it an easy process? No, it's not. Is it worth it? Absolutely.
Absolutely. Yeah, and for everyone out there, get a book coach. I'm here for you.
Yes, please. Absolutely.
So I would love to just touch a little bit on the content of your book. What can readers expect? What kind of nuggets are they looking forward to when they pop up in those pages?
Well, one of the things they're going to learn, I have something called the collections zone. That is like my favorite part of the entire book. And so I was talking earlier about sports. So what I did in one of the chapters in the book is called the collection zone. And the reason I did it was like this. When people think about collections in business to business or even consumer, most people cringe when they think, oh my gosh, a collector's going to call me about my money. So in order to help business owners feel better about it, I took the analogy of the sports zone, for example. So whoever your favorite player is in whatever team, usually he or she gets their mindset ready. They get into the zone. They usually come off the bus, they got their headsets on, and they're listening to music, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And then they're visualizing themselves on the field or whatever they get ready to do. And they're kind of doing the pregame things, game day, and post-game. So in the same vein, in the collection zone, I talk and teach about how to get yourself, if you have clients that you have to collect money from, how do you do pregame? Pregame is your mindset. How do you see yourself? Do you see yourself, uncomfortable with making those phone calls, or do you see yourself, oh no, I'm confident. I can get on the call and have this conversation. This will be good. So I have a whole section around pregame work, which is your mindset. Affirmations. What do you say to yourself? How do you visualize yourself collecting this money? Then there's game day. Then you have your list of accounts. You got to get on the phone or get on Zoom or get on Google Meets and have the call and have the conversation. You have to be ready to engage with collecting your money. And then post-game is celebrating. I believe that when you collect your cash, you need to celebrate, whether it's $1, thousands of dollars, or millions of dollars. You need to celebrate, clappers, whatever you need to do. But I believe you need to celebrate that, because what that does is that builds up your momentum. The same way you did in sports, the same way you did in school. When you got an A on your paper, you're like, yes, because then you realize, okay, I got this on lock. I can do this. Well, the same way, I believe you got to do pregame, game day, and postgame to celebrate the fact that you collect the cash. You can mark that off your list, rinse and repeat and build momentum. And I believe that in people, because this is money is such a sensitive topic, I needed to find a way to make it fun, but also teach you a business principle, which is you still have to collect the cash, but you have to get your mindset ready. You got to be ready to engage, and then you got to be ready to celebrate.
Oh, yeah. I love that. I love it because you're right. Once you're in the zone, you're in the zone. Whether that's writing, whether that's an exercise in sports, it's amazing. I love that. So where can people find you, Dee, and your book?
Sure thing. So first of all, thank you again so much, Marcel, for being here. So my book is available on Amazon, but also I like people to buy it personally from me. So please visit www.collectthecash.biz/book. That's www.collectthecash.biz/book. When you get it from me personally, I actually sign it and I actually mail it to you. And I like to write a personal note to you because we were talking earlier at the beginning of the conversation how people don't throw away books. Most people don't throw away books that are signed by the author because it's a personal treasure. And I want you to treasure the book, and I also want you to I want you to take a picture. I want you to post it on social media, tag me on IG, which is @DCollects, and so I can shout you out and say thank you for getting the book. So again, www.collectthecash.biz/book.
I'm looking forward to that. Yeah, I definitely, when there's a signature on there, I'm like, oh, it's mine forever. This is it.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Dee Bowden, author of Collect the Cash. This has been amazing. We're looking forward to hearing more from you and also for diving into your book. And thank you again for not just spreading your motivation and inspiration, but also your expertise, both in the collections area, but also in the book publishing process. So thank you from the How to Write a Book podcast.
Thank you.
And that's a wrap for today's episode of the How to Write a Book podcast. Thanks so much for tuning in, and I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you want to keep up with me and my work, check out the website blackheartedstudios.com. That's www.blackheartedstudios.com. And follow me on Instagram @MassielWrites. That's @MASSIEL Writes. As a book coach and publisher, I'm passionate about helping aspiring authors bring their stories to life. So if you've been dreaming of writing a book and don't know where to start, head to my website and let's chat. You get a free 30 minutes on me. Thanks again for listening, and don't forget to subscribe and leave a review. I'll see you in the next episode. Thanks.